Good morning, it's 6:31 a.m. heading up to Canungra for a coffee, peaceful read of my book all by myself, and see who turns up. Somebody or nobody, doesn't matter to me, but nice relaxing ride by myself, and that's where we're going to head. Petrol prices have gone up again, I see. For some strange reason, when I ride through here, just along this bit of road here, I get this really high-pitched noise in my helmet. I don't know why. If it's a funnel, a natural funnel, a wind funnel through here. But it just can disappear later when I get up around the corner. Hopefully it will. Those in the last few days. Anyway, we'll just see what happens. But it's annoying. I don't know if it'll have any effect on the GoPro. I do have earplugs in. And the helmet I've got's quite good for wind. It doesn't. It's not a noisy helmet by any way. Any shape, form or shape, it's quite good. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, get up to around about 50 kilometres an hour and it starts, which is unusual. Normally don't have any issues with wind noise with this helmet and this bike. So I watched a few YouTube videos yesterday on the best settings for GoPro Hero 7 Black to get the best footage. Probably watched about 4 or 5, and they do have differing opinions, but some of the settings they agree on. So I've played around with my camera. I couldn't even begin to tell you what those settings are, so I didn't even remember them myself, not being a camera boffin or a photographic boffin. But as soon as I went into the settings, I remembered them and changed to the recommendation. So I'll be interested to see what it was like, what the finished product is like. Boy, that noise is incredible. So I dip my head below the screen and the noise goes away. But I've had this set up on the bike on the screen, and this extender here, just here, for 2 years. I've never had this issue. The helmet I've probably had for about 2 months, but I've never noticed any wind before. I don't know what is causing it. Anyway, see what happens. So we had our big day ride, our 400 kilometre ride with the boys club last Wednesday. Today's Monday, and I got home Wednesday. It was a hot day, and coming through the traffic, the M1 motorway in northern suburbs of Brisbane, trying to find the M1. I didn't film any of that, thank God. But it was a nightmare, and I was so hot and tired, and I had a headache because I was dehydrated when I got home, and I didn't do anything. I just put the bike away and went upstairs and had a cold shower. I literally stood under the cold shower for about 5 minutes, and I was in bed probably 7:30 or 8 o'clock. Just absolutely exhausted. The heat mainly, especially that last hour and a half, 2 hours getting home through peak hour traffic and in the heat. It takes its toll on you physically and mentally. Anyway, so the next day, Thursday, I got up and went down to our local pool and had a swim in our complex, and came back. No, I didn't have a swim. I got up early and washed the bike while it was still cool in the morning, because the bike was dirty, covered in bugs and dust and dirt and grit and grime. So I washed the bike, and then I went down the pool and had a swim. And I was still fatigued. I probably did hardly anything that day. My wife was at school teaching, granddaughter was at her school learning, hopefully. And I just sat home and watched TV and slept after I washed the bike. And I did a little bit of gardening. I've only got a tiny little lawn at the back. It takes me about 2 minutes to get the little push mower out, cut the grass. I did that. Yeah. So Thursday I didn't do anything. Anyway, this bike, after I washed it, this is the first time out. It's Monday since last Wednesday, so I put this bike away and it's clean as a whistle. I hope it stays that way. No rain forecast. Well, the odd shower, but it's only like a 5 or 10% chance of rain, which means it's 90 to 95% chance it's not going to rain. Always interested in that comment about the rain forecast. You hear it on the news and on the radio, and they say today on the Gold Coast it's going to be 30 degrees with a 40% chance of rain, or a 20% chance of rain, or a 60%, 50% chance of rain. But what they mean is, when they say 40% chance of rain, it's a 60% chance of rain that it's not going to rain. Or 20% chance of rain, well, it's an 80% chance it won't rain. So I don't get it. Anyway, I guess it means the same thing either way. But anyway, today it's the odd shower. I think it's 5 to 10% chance of rain, but I had a look at the radar before I left home, and yeah, it's out to the east, as I could see when I came out of my complex. There's bugger all out this way, and I should be home by 6. I'll be home by about 10 o'clock, I suppose, 9:30, 10. After I have a coffee, read my book, and probably have a look at YouTube. I bought my ear pods. I don't know what the difference is. Granddaughter insists they're AirPods. I say, but they don't go in the ear, they go in your ear. So why aren't they ear pods? Anyway, I bought my ear/AirPods. I wish someone would tell me what they are, but I know what they are, so that's all that matters. So I've got my smartphone and my AirPods. So if I get bored of reading my book, which I will, because I only ever read it for about 20 or 30 minutes. Usually takes me about 2 months to read a book. I can read it in probably 3 or 4 days. I'm not a fast reader, not like my wife. She can read a book in a night, one book in a night. A 400, 500 page novel she could knock over in an afternoon. And my granddaughter, she's a speed reader to envy. She can churn through books. She's 13 and she's read hundreds and hundreds of books, whereas I'm a pretty slow reader. But if I do put my head down and read and get determined to knock it over, I can usually do it in about 2 or 3, well, probably 3 days. But that's rare. I'll put it down, won't pick it up for a week, sometimes 2 weeks, and work my way through it. It's all light reading, it's all Tom Clancy stuff, even though the stuff I've been reading, Tom Clancy novels aren't written by Tom because he's been dead for 8 years. Anyway, same characters, same theme, goodies against baddies, goodies win. Light reading. Techno thriller, they used to describe it. The techno thriller. When they first came out, and his novels first came out in the early to mid 80s. I remember being in the military, in the army. I was posted to the Land Warfare Centre at Canungra, and our commandant, our colonel, decided that everybody had to write a book review, and he was going to read them, every officer that is. So I don't know, he's probably got anywhere from about 80 to 100 officers in the whole camp. So everybody had to do this book review. We had a previous to that, my boss before him, he just did the same thing, but he only had about 12 officers to supervise. This is like about 2 years before, and he made us do a book review because he wanted to assess us on our writing skills. So anyway, I did a book review on, I don't know which Tom Clancy novel it was, one of the early ones, because this is back in the 1980s, so it's probably The Hunt for Red October. But anyway, I did a book review on whatever Tom Clancy novel it was, and gave it to him, and it was about the new genre, techno thriller. Anyway, I gave it to my boss then. He said, "Oh, wonderful, Greg, very interesting, blah 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 blah." I gave it back to me. So 2 years go by. The boss that I did The Hunt for Red October, first novel, first book review, he's out of the army. He's gone, pursuing a different career. So the new boss that comes in, he decides he'll do the same thing. So we've got 80 to 100 blokes doing a book review. So I thought to myself, I couldn't be bothered doing another one of these bloody things. I'll just pluck out the one I did 2 years before. So it was exactly the same thing. And I thought, well, what's wrong with that? I've done a book review. Just because it's been read by somebody else earlier doesn't mean it can't be read again, can't be submitted. It's still my work. It's not as if I've copied it or... Anyway, so I submitted it, and everybody else, all the other, go to the officers' mess and hear all these blokes, oh God, we have to do this book review, it's due next week, or it's due next month, and then it's due next week, it's due tomorrow, I still haven't started, and all this bloody whinging. And I'm sitting there thinking, I didn't say a word. Didn't say a word. Anyway, whatever day it was due, I put it in on time, and the commandant marked it, came back, positive review, same as the previous guy. Oh, connected there, really interesting. I have to read that novel, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, a couple of years later, I think I was even out of the army then myself. I'm up at the Outpost Cafe at Canungra, and one of the officers that I was in the army with, and he had both bosses. He was out of the army as well, and both the bosses that I had done this book review for, this one book review, and who'd read it, they were his bosses as well. So many years later, up at the Outpost Cafe, he's riding a bike and I'm riding a bike. We're sitting having a chat, and we got talking about these book reviews. that we had to do. And I told him my story. I said, well, I only did one. I said, what do you mean you did one? He said, didn't you hand it in? I said, no, I handed it in. I said, I handed one in to the first boss, who was only had a 12 to supervise. He said, yeah, I did that. And then I said 2 years later, when I had to do the other one, yeah, I did that. And I said, well, I handed in the same one, because I knew that the chances of the Commandant knowing that the book review I'd done 2 years earlier. And I said, anyway, it was the same. I did a book review, and so I did one. He looked at me and said, you sly mongrel. I think he used more choice words than that. Anyway, I said, well, you know, lateral thinking, more than one way to skin a cat. Anyway, yeah, with a Commandant, he was a colonel, a full colonel. And he got left Canungra after his 2 years and became a brigadier, 1-star general. Brigadier, we only call her a brigadier, the Yanks call her a brigadier general, but still 1 star. And then he later got promoted to Major General. And did, I don't know how many postings he did as Major General, and then he took his discharge from the army. And the first boss, he was a Lieutenant Colonel. Lieutenant Colonel, as the Americans like to call it, Lieutenant Colonel. And he actually was forced out of the military because they decided to do a redundancy. Army was reducing in numbers. So they chose people who they were going to make redundant, and unfortunately for him, he was one of them. He didn't want to get out, but he had to. Anyway, I believe he got a high-paying job in the public service, Queensland state government. I never saw him again. I didn't see Commandant again after he left either. I just knew his military record because I was still in the army when he got promoted. Anyway, interesting times, good times, different life. Been out of the military now longer than I was in it. Come to think of it, I served 20 years and took my discharge in, when was it? I actually left the army in December 95, or January 96, I suppose, December, January. But didn't actually take my discharge for 1 year later because I took leave. I took my 1 month annual leave. So that was all of January 1996. I actually finished work December 95. So I was on holidays all of January 96. I then took long service leave on half pay, and I had 5 months long service leave, so half pay you double the time, or you can take full time, 5 months on full pay or 10 months on half pay. So I took 10 months on half pay, and that took me up till the end of November 1996. And the strange thing about long service leave is when you're on long service leave, you're still earning annual leave. So I'd earned another month of annual leave, which I took in December 1996. So in effect, the whole year of 1996, I was still in the army getting paid, but I was out in my new job. And so when I took my discharge in January 97, that qualified me 20 years. So effectively I served 19 and took the last year on different forms of leave, which counted as service. So it was 20 years in the military, and that qualified me for pension for life. Hallelujah, brother. Defence Force, DFRDB, Defence Force Death and Retirement Fund. Defence Force Retirement and Death Benefit Fund. Yeah, DB, that's what it was, DFRDB. And that fund, they finished it 1991, I think it was the end of 91 or maybe the end of 92. And they stopped it because it was just costing the government too much money. The only other people that had an equivalent pension for life were politicians, and they kept theirs until I think it was the end of 2002 or the end of 2003, when they fell into line. All new pollies that were elected on or after that date fell into line with the rest of the community. And in the military, I remember, I think it was the beginning of 1992. So if you joined, let me think, it was earlier than that. It was definitely 1991, yeah. They released the review in 1990, and they gave people a year to think about, people that were serving at the time, gave them a year to think about whether they wanted to change to the new system, which was called MSBS, Military Superannuation Benefit Scheme, or stay with the old scheme. Gave you a year to think about it. And as a sweetener to go to the new scheme, if you had completed 15 years service or more, which I had, I was right on 15 years service, they would give you, if you swapped to the new scheme, 1 year's salary tax free as an incentive or bonus to swap over. And a lot of people did. A lot of people took that option because 1 year's salary, I mean, that's a hefty deposit on a house. A lot of people did it. But the new scheme was just like any other superannuation scheme that's in existence in Australia today, and that is you contribute to retirement through compulsory levy each fortnight out of your pay. The government puts in a percentage of your pay. Not sure what it was back in 92 or something, or whatever it was. May have been 6% or 8% of your salary. Your salary went into your retirement fund, your superannuation. Can't remember now. Anyway, I think now it's 9%. It will be almost 10% soon. And by 2025, it's going to go up to 12%. But a few catches. When you cannot access it until you retire at the age of 60. Well, that's the earliest you can access it, at the age of 60. And then you can, with the new scheme, like all the other superannuation schemes, the money's yours. You can take the whole lot, lump sum payment, go to the casino and put it on one roll of the dice if you want. You can take the whole lot, pay your house off, buy a house, invest it yourself, do whatever you like with it, or you can leave it in a superannuation fund and let them manage it. And you can take an income account fortnightly or monthly. So that was the new scheme. The advantage of the new scheme was, well, let me tell you about the old scheme. The DFRDB, government put in their contribution. But you had to complete 20 years service before you qualified for a pension. So if you completed 20 years, the pension that you got was, I think it was something like 33%, 1/3, and then it went up incrementally for each year after 20. And some people served 40 years. Well, in my case, they still had age restrictions on rank, and I was 42. I was 43 when I reached 20 years service, and I could only go till I was 47, so I could only go another 4 years. So the maximum I could have got was 24 years service, whatever percentage that is. But if you left before you completed 20 years service, you lost a lot. Your contributions, you had to put in, the government put in theirs, and you had to put in yours, same as super. But your contributions you lost. It was your money, but you lost it because you didn't reach 20 years, which is wrong. And there were a hell of a lot of people that served 6 years, because it was 3-year increments. No, for soldiers, officers was no time frame except age retirement when you got a commission. But soldiers, they signed up for 3-year increments, or you could sign up for 6 years if you like, 3 or 6. So if you did 6 years, then another 3, and then decided, well, I've had enough, I want to get out, so you did 9 years service or 12 years, you got nothing back. So 9 or 12 years contributions that you'd been making out of your pay went straight into the government coffers, which is highway robbery. Anyway, but when they brought in the new scheme, I had already completed 15 years, and I knew that I was not going to go beyond 20, as I've already explained. So it was an easy decision for me. I just said, no, bugger it, I'm going to stay in the old scheme. And I'm forever thankful that I did, because when I was 43, when I discharged after 20 years service, I started drawing on that pension. And I'm 67 now, so I've been drawing on that pension, and it's adjusted for inflation twice a year. They adjust it, and I've been drawing on that pension for 24 years, and hopefully a bloody lot longer yet. Anyway, so we're at the Outpost. I don't see the King of Canungra's bike, or that cloud has followed me. We might get a shower. Yeah, the King of Canungra has a Honda 750 Cruiser. It's not there. The old Scottish or Irish guy that owns that grey and black TDM, Yamaha TDM, he's usually there with the King. No King today. The King usually gets here at 5 AM in the morning and leaves at anywhere between 8 and 9, depending on how much of an audience he's got in his entourage. Anyway, Robert's not here, so I don't know where he is. Gail, the lady. Right, that's about it. Got my book, got my AirPods, as my granddaughter calls them. Got my breakfast, 2 yogurts and a banana. Got my glasses so I can read. Got my Tom Clancy book, written by Mark Cameron. So, anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe and share.